The tragical history of the life and death of Dr. Faustus, commonly referred to simply as Dr. Faustus, is an Elizabethan tragedy by Christopher Marlowe, based on German stories about the title character Faust. It was written sometime between 1589 and 1592, and might have been performed between 1592 and Marlowe's death in 1593. Two different versions of the play were published in the Jacobean era, several years later too. The powerful effect of early productions of the play is indicated by the legends that quickly accrued around them that actual devils once appeared on the stage during a performance, to the great amazement of both the actors and spectators, a sight that was said to have driven some spectators mad. Summary. In the prologue, the chorus introduces the reader to Faustus and his story. He is described as being base of stock, however, his intelligence and scholarship eventually earns him the degree of a doctor at the University of Wittenberg. During this opening, the reader also gets a first clue to the source of Faustus's downfall. Faustus's tale is likened to that of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and fell to his death when the sun melted his waxen wings. This is a hint to Faustus's end as well as bringing to the reader's attention the idea of hubris, excessive pride, which is represented in the Icarus story and ultimately Faustus. Faustus comments that he has mastered every subject he has studied. He depreciates logic as merely being a tool for arguing, medicine as being unvalued unless it allowed raising the dead and immortality, law as being mercenary and beneath him, and divinity as useless because he feels that all humans commit sin, and thus to have sins punishable by death complicates the logic of divinity. He dismisses it as what doctrine call you this? Que sera, sera, what will be, shall be. Faustus instructs his servant Wagner to summon Valdez and Cornelius, a famous witchcrafter and a famous magician, respectively. Two angels, called the good angel and the bad angel, appear to Faustus and dispense their own perspectives of his interest in magic and necromancy. Though Faustus seems momentarily dissuaded, he is apparently won over by the bad angel, proclaiming, "How am I glutted with conceit of this," conceit meaning the possibilities magic offers to him. Valdez and Cornelius declare that if Faustus devotes himself to magic, great things are indeed possible with someone of Faustus' learning and intelligence. Faustus' absence is noted by two scholars who are less accomplished than Faustus himself. They request that Wagner reveal Faustus' present location, a request which Wagner at first haughtily denies, then bombastically reveals. The two scholars worry about Faustus being corrupted by the art of magic and leave to inform the rector of the university. That night, Faustus begins his attempt to summon a devil in the presence of Lucifer and other devils, although Faustus is unaware of their presence. After he creates a magic circle and speaks an incantation through which he revokes his baptism, a demon, a representative of the devil himself, named Mephistopheles appears before him, but Faustus is unable to tolerate the hideous looks of the demon and commands it to change its appearance. Faustus, seeing the obedience of the demon in changing its form, takes pride in his skill. He tries to bind the demon to his service, but is unable to because Mephistopheles already serves Lucifer, who is also called the Prince of Devils. Mephistopheles also reveals that it was not Faustus' power that summoned him but rather his abjuration of scriptures that results in the devil coming in the hope of claiming Faustus' soul. Mephistopheles introduces the history of Lucifer and the other devils while indirectly telling Faustus that hell has no circumference nor limit and is more of a state of mind than a physical location. Faustus' inquiries into the nature of hell lead to Mephistopheles saying, "Oh, Faustus, leave these frivolous demands, which strikes a terror to my fainting soul." The Pact with Lucifer edit. Using Mephistopheles as a messenger, Faustus strikes a deal with Lucifer. He is to be allotted 24 years of life on earth, during which time he will have Mephistopheles as his personal servant and the ability to use magic. However, at the end he will give his body and soul over to Lucifer as payment and spend the rest of time as one damned to hell. This deal is to be sealed in the form of a contract written in Faustus' own blood. After cutting his arm, the wound is divinely healed and the Latin words homo, fugue, man, flee, then appear upon it. 22. Despite the dramatic nature of this divine intervention, Faustus disregards the inscription with the assertion that he is already damned by his actions thus far and therefore left with no place to which he could flee. Mephistopheles brings coals to break the wound open again, and thus Faustus is able to take his oath written in his own blood. Wasting his skills at it. Faustus begins by asking Mephistopheles a series of science-related questions. However, the demon seems to be quite evasive and finishes with a Latin phrase, per inno equilem modum respect totes, through unequal motion with respect to the whole thing. This sentence has not the slightest scientific value, thus giving the impression that Mephistopheles is not trustworthy. Faustus then asks who made the world, a question which Mephistopheles refuses to answer. Mephistopheles knows that God made the world. When Faustus announces his intention to renounce magic and repent, Mephistopheles storms away. The good and evil angels return to Faustus. The good angel urges him to repent and recant his oath to Lucifer, but the evil angel sneers that Faustus will never repent. This is the largest fault of Faustus throughout the play. He is blind to his own salvation and remains set on his soul's damnation. Lucifer, accompanied by Beelzebub and Mephistopheles, appears to Faustus and frightens him into obedience to their pact. Lucifer then, as an entertainment, brings to Faustus the personification of the 7 deadly sins. Faustus fails to see them as warnings and ignores their implication. From this point until the end of the play, although he gains great fame for his powers, Dr. Faustus does nothing worthwhile, having begun his pact with the attitude that he would be able to do anything. Instead, he merely uses his temporary powers for practical jokes and frivolous demonstrations to the nobility. Finally, with his allotted 24 years mostly expired and realizing that he has given up his soul for no good reason, Faustus appears to scholars and warns them that he is damned and will not be long on the earth. He gives a speech about how he is damned and eventually seems to repent for his deeds. Damnation edit. At the end of the play, on the 11th hour, Mephistopheles comes to collect Faustus' soul and Faustus is dragged off the stage to hell by Mephistopheles and other devils even though Dr. Faustus tries to repent and beg for mercy from those devils. In the later B text of the play, there is a subsequent scene v.3 where the 3 scholars discover his remains strewn about the stage. They state that Faustus was damned, one scholar declaring that the devils have torn him asunder, but they determine, because of Faustus' learning, to have him properly buried and mourned. 23 Faustus says himself in the A text, "What art thou, Faustus, but a man condemned to die?"